The 15th century was a time of unprecedented change. Europe was awakening from the long slumber of the Middle Ages, and a new era of discovery and innovation was dawning. The Renaissance was in full bloom, bringing with it a renewed interest in science, art, and the world beyond Europe's borders. It was the age of exploration, a period marked by daring voyages and the relentless pursuit of new horizons. Bold mariners set sail into the unknown, driven by a thirst for knowledge, wealth, and glory. These explorers were not just adventurers, they were pioneers, charting courses through uncharted waters and mapping the world as they went. Portugal, a small nation perched on the edge of the Atlantic, was at the forefront of this maritime revolution. Under the leadership of Prince Henry the Navigator, the Portuguese developed advanced navigation techniques and ship designs that allowed them to venture further than ever before. One of the most coveted prizes was a sea route to India. The promise of direct access to the wealth of the East was a powerful motivator. India, with its spices, silks, and jewels, held an irresistible allure. The riches of India were legendary, and European merchants were eager to bypass the middlemen who controlled the overland trade routes. For centuries, trade with the East had been controlled by Arab merchants and the powerful Ottoman Empire. These intermediaries commanded high prices and kept the secrets of the trade routes closely guarded. European powers sought a way to break this monopoly and establish direct trade links with the source of these riches. The dream of a sea route to India became an obsession for many. The Portuguese were determined to find a way around Africa, a journey fraught with danger and uncertainty. The seas were treacherous, and the coastlines were unfamiliar. They believed that by sailing south along the African coast, they could eventually find a passage to the Indian Ocean. This belief drove them to push further and further into the unknown. It was a gamble, but one that would have enormous consequences for the world. The discovery of a sea route to India would not only transform global trade, but also pave the way for the age of colonialism and the profound reshaping of world history. Vasco da Gama was born into this world of exploration and ambition. He entered the world in the small coastal town of Sines, Portugal, around the year 1460. His family, though not wealthy, had connections to the Portuguese court and the Order of Santiago, a powerful military order. Little is known of da Gama's early life, but it is likely that he received a good education, including training in navigation and seamanship. Growing up in Sines, a bustling port town, he would have been exposed to the comings and goings of ships and the tales of sailors returning from distant lands. Portugal's maritime ambitions were deeply ingrained in da Gama's upbringing. His father, Estevão da Gama, had been involved in early Portuguese explorations down the African coast. This legacy, combined with the spirit of the age, undoubtedly shaped young Vasco's ambitions. In 1497, Vasco da Gama, then in his 30s, was chosen by King Manuel I of Portugal to lead an ambitious expedition to India. This was a monumental task, as no European had successfully navigated a sea route to India before. The king had been impressed by da Gama's skills as a navigator and his family's extensive maritime experience. The da Gama family had a long history of seafaring, which made Vasco a natural choice for this daring mission. It was a daunting task, but da Gama was ambitious and determined to succeed where others had failed. He knew the risks were high, but the potential rewards were even greater. The promise of establishing a direct trade route to India was a powerful motivator. On July 8, 1497, da Gama set sail from Lisbon with a fleet of 4 ships. The departure was a grand event, with crowds gathering to witness the beginning of this historic journey. The ships were small by today's standards, the largest barely 100 feet long, but they were sturdy and well-equipped for the long and perilous journey ahead. Each ship was stocked with provisions, navigational tools, and weapons for defense. The crews, numbering around 170 men, were a mix of experienced sailors, soldiers, and adventurers. These men came from various backgrounds, each bringing their own skills and knowledge to the expedition. The voyage was fraught with challenges. The Atlantic Ocean was vast and unpredictable, and the crew had to navigate through uncharted waters. Storms battered the ships, scurvy ravaged the crews, and the vastness of the Atlantic Ocean tested the limits of their endurance. The men faced hunger, disease, and the constant threat of mutiny. Da Gama, a strict and sometimes ruthless leader, maintained discipline and kept the expedition moving forward. His leadership was crucial in keeping the crew focused and determined, despite the many hardships they faced. The journey took them down the coast of Africa, around the Cape of Good Hope, and across the Indian Ocean. Each leg of the journey presented new challenges, but Da Gama's navigation skills and the crew's resilience saw them through. Finally, after months at sea, they reached the shores of India. This historic voyage not only opened up new trade routes, but also marked the beginning of a new era in global exploration and commerce. Vasco da Gama's successful voyage to India was celebrated as a monumental achievement. It solidified his place in history as one of the greatest navigators of his time and paved the way for future explorations. After months at sea, da Gama's fleet rounded the Cape of Good Hope, a treacherous point known for its unpredictable weather and dangerous currents. The sailors, weary from their long journey, faced the daunting task of navigating these perilous waters. They sailed into the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean, a realm of uncharted waters and unknown challenges. The crew relied heavily on a combination of their own maritime skills, the capricious favor of luck, and the invaluable guidance of local pilots who knew these waters intimately. Finally, on May 20th, 1498, after enduring countless hardships, they reached Calicut, a bustling major trading center on the southwest coast of India. This city was renowned for its vibrant markets and diverse array of goods. Their arrival was met with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion from the local population. The sight of foreign ships and unfamiliar faces sparked intrigue among the locals, who had never seen Europeans before. The local ruler, the Zamorin of Calicut, was initially receptive to the Portuguese. He welcomed them into his court, intrigued by the potential for new trade opportunities and the exotic goods they brought with them. However, tensions soon arose over trade agreements and religious differences. The Portuguese, eager to establish a foothold in the lucrative spice trade, found themselves at odds with local customs and the established trading practices of the region. Da Gama's attempts to secure a trade treaty were ultimately unsuccessful. Despite his best efforts, he could not bridge the cultural and commercial divide that separated the Portuguese from the local traders. He left Calicut after a few months, his ships laden with valuable spices, but his heart heavy with disappointment over the lack of a formal agreement. The spices they carried were a testament to their journey, but the absence of a treaty meant their future in the region was uncertain. The return voyage was even more arduous than the outward journey. The crew faced relentless storms that battered their ships and tested their resolve. The ocean seemed determined to claim them, throwing wave after wave against their fragile vessels. Supplies dwindled rapidly, and disease spread through the crew like wildfire. The combination of malnutrition, exhaustion, and illness took a heavy toll on the sailors, many of whom succumbed to the harsh conditions. Da Gama lost 2 of his ships and many of his men to the unforgiving sea. The loss of life and vessels was a stark reminder of the perilous nature of their expedition. He arrived back in Lisbon in September 1499, having completed one of the most remarkable voyages in history. The journey had been fraught with danger and difficulty, but it marked a significant milestone in the age of exploration, opening new routes and opportunities for future expeditions. Section 5. A second voyage, Consolidation and Conflict. Da Gama's return to Portugal was met with celebrations. He had opened the sea route to India and paved the way for Portuguese dominance in the Indian Ocean. King Manuel I showered him with honors and rewards, including the title of Admiral of the Indian Seas. However, the initial euphoria soon gave way to a realization that establishing a lasting presence in India would require more than a single voyage. The Portuguese were determined to control the spice trade, and this meant confronting the Arab merchants who had long dominated the region. In 1502, Da Gama led a second, much larger expedition to India. This time, he was equipped with a powerful fleet and a mandate to establish Portuguese dominance. The voyage was marked by violence and brutality. Da Gama's fleet clashed with Arab ships, bombarded the city of Calicut, and engaged in acts of piracy and plunder. Vasco da Gama's final journey was both a culmination and a testament to his life's work. In 1524, he was appointed as the Portuguese viceroy in India. Sadly, he fell ill soon after arriving in Cochin and passed away on Christmas Eve. His body was initially buried in India, but later returned to Portugal in 1539. This journey marked the end of an era, but his legacy was far from over. The impact of Vasco da Gama on the world cannot be overstated. His voyages opened up new maritime routes, linking Europe and Asia in ways that had never been done before. These routes facilitated trade, cultural exchanges, and even the spread of religions. The age of exploration was forever changed by his daring expeditions, making him a pivotal figure in world history. Today, Vasco da Gama is remembered as one of the greatest navigators of all time. Monuments, schools, and even a city in India bear his name. His voyages are studied in history books, and his contributions to navigation and exploration are celebrated worldwide. His story is a reminder of the human spirit's unyielding quest for discovery and adventure. Vasco da Gama's significance endures to this day. His explorations laid the groundwork for the globalized world we live in now. The routes he charted are still used by modern shipping lanes, and his legacy lives on in the annals of history. Through his journeys, he not only connected continents but also brought the world closer together, forever changing the course of history.